Here is a quiet truth most financial content won't tell you. Over the last 2 decades, the average investor has earned far less than the market itself. Not because the market failed them, or their broker misled them, or the economy worked against them, but because their own behavior did. Research shows the average equity investor underperforms their own funds by 2 to 3% annually when emotions drive decisions. Over 30 years, that gap becomes the difference between struggle and real freedom. The cause isn't information. It's psychological architecture. So why do intelligent, hardworking people still fail to build lasting wealth? Why do people who read books, listen to podcasts, and follow financial news still find themselves stuck, anxious, and behind where they thought they would be at this stage of life? The answer is not complicated. It is uncomfortable. The real obstacle is not income. It is not the stock market. It is not even the economy. The real obstacle is behavior. And behavior, just like money itself, compounds over time. What you will discover in this video is not a list of generic financial tips. This is a precise, psychologically intelligent breakdown of the minimalist money rules that a quiet 5% of people understand and consistently apply, while the other 95% unknowingly work against themselves. These are not dramatic strategies. They are not complex investment formulas. If you're serious about financial independence and want to understand how wealth actually works at the behavioral and psychological level, subscribe to the channel. This is the first minimalist money rule. The 5% do not manage money. They manage behavior. Think about that distinction for a moment. Most people believe that financial success is primarily a numbers problem. More income, lower expenses, better returns. And while those things matter, they are outputs. They are results. They are not causes. The underlying cause of every financial outcome in your life is a decision. And every decision is a product of behavior. And every behavior is shaped by identity. This is why 2 people can have identical incomes and arrive at completely different financial destinations after 20 years. One of them has built a behavioral architecture that quietly, automatically compounds in their favor. The other has not. The first rule is not about budgeting. It is about recognizing that every dollar you have or do not have right now is the sum total of thousands of behavioral decisions made over years. Small behaviors compound. That is not motivational language. That is mathematics. The second money rule reveals something deeper. The 5% understand that identity precedes behavior. Before strategy, before budgets, before investment vehicles, there is a story you are telling yourself about who you are with money. And that story is the most powerful financial force in your life, because you will consistently act in alignment with your self-concept. If you see yourself as someone who struggles financially, you will unconsciously make decisions that confirm that belief. If you see yourself as someone who builds wealth methodically and patiently, your daily decisions will quietly reflect that identity, even in small moments that seem insignificant. The question is not what financial plan should you follow. The question is, who are you financially? Because identity compounds. Every small financial decision either reinforces or contradicts the financial identity you are building. The 5% do not wait for results to define their identity. They define their identity first, and then the results follow. Here is where the third money rule force begins. The 5% eliminate financial noise before it shapes their decisions. We live in an era of unprecedented financial information. Markets are analyzed in real time. Economic predictions are issued hourly. Every financial influencer has an urgent opinion about what you should be doing with your money right now. And the 95% are drowning in all of it. Have you ever noticed how every piece of financial news seems designed to trigger an emotional response? Fear, urgency, excitement, regret. These emotions are not neutral. They are decision killers. Every time you consume financial content that makes you feel anxious, envious, or impulsive, your ability to think clearly about your own financial situation is temporarily compromised. The 5% are not uninformed. They are selectively informed. They have designed an information environment that supports calm, deliberate thinking rather than reactive, emotionally charged decision-making. Psychology compounds. The quality of your financial thinking today will shape the quality of your financial outcomes for decades. This next rule is invisible but powerful. The 5% understand the true cost of convenience. Modern financial life is engineered around friction reduction, one-click purchasing, instant credit, automatic payment systems designed to make spending feel effortless and invisible. And effortless spending is among the most dangerous financial forces most people will ever face. When spending feels easy, it compounds in the wrong direction. Small subscriptions you forgot about, automatic renewals that no longer serve you, purchases made in moments of emotional comfort that you would never make during a moment of clear, intentional thinking. The 5% do not resist modern convenience out of philosophical principle. They simply understand that friction, when applied deliberately to spending, is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available. Adding even 24 hours of intentional pause before any non-essential purchase creates a decision gap. And inside that gap, clarity lives. Small decisions compound. The money saved in 1,000 small moments of intentional friction, invested consistently over time, does not stay small. The fifth money rule operates on a principle that most people intellectually understand, but emotionally resist. The 5% pay themselves first, not last. This sounds simple. It is not as commonly practiced as it sounds. The default financial behavior of the 95% is to earn, to spend, and then to save whatever remains. And what remains is almost always less than intended, because spending expands naturally to meet available income. The 5% reverse this sequence entirely. Before the money touches a lifestyle expense, a predetermined portion is redirected automatically toward assets. The key word is automatically, because automation removes the decision from the equation. It removes willpower from the process. And a wealth-building system that does not require willpower to function is a system that will survive every emotional state, every stressful month, and every moment of financial temptation. Saving compounding begins the moment it becomes structural rather than intentional. The sixth money rule is one that takes time to appreciate. The 5% measure wealth in ownership, not income. Income is a rate. Wealth is a stock. These are fundamentally different things, and confusing them is one of the most common and costly financial misunderstandings in the 95%. High income feels like wealth. It signals status. It triggers social approval. But income that is not converted into ownership compounds nothing. A person earning $150,000 a year and spending $145,000 is not building wealth. They are building lifestyle. A person earning $60,000 a year and consistently acquiring income-producing assets is building wealth, regardless of how it looks from the outside. What do you actually own that would continue to generate value or income if your paycheck stopped tomorrow? That question cuts through the noise. That question is the one the 5% ask regularly and the 95% rarely consider. By the way, if you are enjoying the video so far and want more topics like this, comment the word "more" so I know. Here is where the seventh rule reveals a pattern that most people spend their entire financial lives never recognizing. The 5% understand that status compounding is the most expensive force in modern financial life. Status compounding is the process by which social comparison quietly shapes your spending, your lifestyle, your choices, and ultimately your financial trajectory in a direction that serves other people's perceptions rather than your own long-term interests. Every time you upgrade a car, not because the old one failed, but because a colleague bought a newer model, status compounding is working against you. Every time you extend a vacation budget, not because you truly need it, but because the images you will share feel insufficient otherwise, status compounding is quietly reshaping your financial future. The 5% are not immune to social comparison. They are simply aware of it. And awareness interrupts the automatic response. When you can see status compounding operating in your decisions, it loses its power over you. This is behavioral compounding in its most socially sophisticated form, and learning to recognize it is worth more than almost any investment strategy you will ever discover. The eighth minimalist money rule sits at the intersection of psychology and time. The 5% protect their compounding aggressively. The mathematics of compounding are well understood. Most people have seen the charts. Most people know that starting early and staying invested produces dramatically better outcomes than starting late or interrupting the process. And yet, what the 95% consistently underestimate is that compounding can be interrupted not only by withdrawals, but by emotional decisions. Every time fear causes you to exit the market during a downturn, compounding is interrupted. Every time impatience causes you to chase a faster returning investment and abandon a slow and steady position, compounding is disrupted. Every time you respond to short-term volatility with a long-term decision, you are paying a compounding cost that never appears on a single account statement, but silently accumulates across decades. Time compounds. That is not optional. But you must protect the time in the market with the same discipline you apply to money in the market. One without the other underperforms dramatically, and to make your compound interest journey effortless, we are building the Trip to Wealth Command Center, a Google Sheets system that brings your income, spending, investing, and net worth together in one place. The tool is built to reveal where your money is leaking, spotlight your biggest growth opportunities, and show how small, consistent decisions compound into meaningful wealth. Join the early access list below and secure a discount as an early supporter. The ninth money rule addresses something that most financial content ignores entirely. The 5% understand that financial complexity is a wealth killer. There is an irony embedded in financial culture that almost nobody discusses. The more sophisticated and complicated a financial product appears, the more likely it is to enrich the person selling it rather than the person buying it. Complexity creates confusion. Confusion creates dependency. Dependency creates fees, and fees compound with devastating efficiency in the wrong direction. The 5% do not pursue complexity as a signal of sophistication. They understand that a simple, consistent, low-cost investment strategy, maintained across decades, outperforms the vast majority of complicated strategies sold to eager investors every single year. This is not a dismissal of nuance. It is a recognition that clarity is a competitive financial advantage. When you understand exactly what you own, why you own it, and what it is expected to do over time, you are dramatically less likely to make a panic-driven decision during the inevitable periods of market stress. Simplicity is not the absence of intelligence. It is one of its highest expressions. The 10th minimalist money rule is subtle, but its impact is enormous over time. The 5% think in decades while acting in days. This is a dual awareness that most people find genuinely difficult to sustain. It requires holding two time horizons simultaneously in your financial thinking: the short-term reality of monthly cash flow, daily decisions, and present moment constraints, alongside the long-term compounding reality of where every current decision leads across a 30-year horizon. Most people default to one or the other. Either they are so consumed by present-day financial stress that long-term thinking feels irrelevant, or they are so focused on a distant retirement vision that they neglect the daily disciplines that make that vision mathematically possible. The 5% have learned to hold both. They make present-day decisions with the clarity of someone who genuinely understands where those decisions lead in 20 years. And that perspective is extraordinarily powerful. Small decisions compound, every single one of them. And the person who can feel that truth in an ordinary Tuesday morning spending decision is living with a financial superpower. Moving forward to the 11th money rule. The 5% manage risk as a system, not a reaction. The 95% tend to think about risk in moments of fear. When the market drops, when a business fails, when an unexpected expense arrives. In those moments, risk management feels urgent and important. But crisis-driven risk thinking is almost always reactive, emotional, and costly. The 5% think about risk during calm periods, when the market is rising and everything feels fine, because that is when rational, proactive risk structuring is actually possible. They maintain emergency funds not as a backup plan, but as a psychological tool that prevents short-term crisis from becoming long-term financial damage. They diversify not because someone told them to, but because they understand that no single asset class, no single company, and no single strategy performs well across every economic environment. Risk compounding is real. Small exposures, left unmanaged, can compound into catastrophic outcomes. But the inverse is equally true. A systematically protected financial foundation compounds into extraordinary long-term stability. This next rule is invisible but powerful. The 5% have mastered the art of distinguishing between productive spending and consumptive spending. Not all spending is equal. This is one of the most important distinctions in wealth psychology. And the 95% almost never make it consciously. Consumptive spending depletes resources and leaves nothing behind. Productive spending depletes resources but creates something. A skill, an asset, a capability, a relationship, or a result that continues to generate value over time. The 5% are not extreme frugalists who deprive themselves in the name of savings. They are intentional allocators who are genuinely selective about which spending categories deserve their resources. They invest in education that produces skills. They invest in health because physical and mental clarity are prerequisites for every other kind of financial performance. They invest in environments and relationships that support deliberate thinking. They reduce or eliminate spending that produces only momentary stimulation. This is not deprivation. This is strategic resource allocation. And the behavioral habit of asking whether a given expenditure is productive or consumptive, applied consistently over years, creates a compounding clarity that dramatically reshapes financial outcomes. The 13th minimalist money rule is one that cuts deeply for most people. The 5% separate financial value from emotional value. One of the most quietly destructive financial behaviors most people engage in is making financial decisions based primarily on how something makes them feel rather than what it actually produces. Not every decision needs to be purely financial. Life is not a spreadsheet. But there is a critical difference between consciously choosing to spend money on something for its emotional or experiential value while acknowledging the financial cost and unconsciously confusing how something feels financially with how it actually performs financially. Expensive does not mean valuable. Premium branding does not mean superior returns. The emotional comfort of feeling like you are doing something sophisticated with your money does not mean the strategy is actually working. Have you ever made a financial decision that felt confident and intelligent in the moment, but delivered disappointing results over time? That gap between emotional certainty and actual performance is one of the most expensive places most people live. The 5% are not emotionally detached from their finances. They are emotionally aware. And that awareness allows them to make better decisions more consistently across time. Emotional compounding works in both directions. Every emotionally intelligent financial decision you make today slightly elevates the quality of your next decision. The 14th money rule is perhaps the most overlooked of all. The 5% invest in their earning capacity with the same discipline they apply to their portfolios. Most financial conversations are centered around how to optimize what you currently earn. Budgets, allocations, savings rates, investment strategies. And those conversations are valuable. But they operate within a fixed income assumption that the 5% actively challenge. The difference between earning $60,000 and earning $90,000 annually, invested consistently over 30 years, is not marginal. It is transformative. And the path from 60 to 90 is almost never about luck. It is about systematically investing in skills, positioning, relationships, and capabilities that increase your market value over time. This is income compounding. The return on a skill that increases your earning power by 20% is, in many cases, dramatically higher than any investment return you could achieve with the same time and financial investment. The 5% understand that their earning capacity is itself an asset, one that deserves active, deliberate, ongoing investment. What is one investment in your own capability that you have been postponing, and what is the compounding cost of that delay? Here is the final minimalist rule, and it is the one that ties everything together. The 5% treat financial consistency as the ultimate wealth technology, not discipline as punishment. Not frugality as suffering. Not obsessive optimization as a lifestyle. Consistency. The reliable, undramatic, sometimes boring practice of doing the right small things repeatedly across time. Regardless of how you feel on any given day, regardless of what the market is doing, regardless of what the financial news is proclaiming, regardless of what your social environment is modeling. Consistency is the compound interest of behavior. Every day that you maintain your financial practices, the system grows slightly stronger. Every week that you avoid a reactive, emotionally driven financial decision, the architecture becomes more stable. Every month that you redirect resources toward ownership and assets rather than lifestyle inflation, the gap between where you are and where you want to be narrows in ways that will not be immediately visible, but will become undeniable across a decade. Decision compounding is real. Psychology compounds. Behavior compounds. Time compounds. Identity compounds. And the person who understands this, who genuinely feels it rather than merely knowing it intellectually, is operating with a financial intelligence that no single market movement, no single economic crisis, and no single bad year can permanently disrupt. What separates the 5% from the 95% is ultimately not access to secret information or superior intelligence. It is a deeply internalized understanding that wealth is not built in dramatic moments. It is not built during periods of market euphoria or economic optimism. It is not built through intensity, urgency, or financial heroics. Wealth is built in the quiet accumulation of excellent small decisions, repeated over years and decades, by someone who knows exactly who they are financially, what they value, and where they are going. The minimalist money rules you have encountered in this video are not a system to be memorized. They are a framework to be internalized. They are a way of seeing your financial life that, once adopted, changes the quality of every decision you make from this point forward. Think back to the beginning of this video. The average investor underperforms the market by 2 to 3% annually simply because of behavior. That gap is not a market problem. That gap is a behavioral problem. And behavioral problems have behavioral solutions, not complicated ones, not expensive ones. Quiet, consistent, psychologically intelligent ones. The kind that most people overlook because they are not dramatic enough to feel important. But they are the most important financial forces in your life. And now you see them. Financial freedom is not a destination that arrives suddenly at some point in the distant future. It is a direction. It is a daily orientation. It is the accumulated result of living in alignment with who you have decided to be financially. Clarity over complexity, consistency over intensity, ownership over appearance, behavior over circumstance, and time over urgency. These are not just minimalist money rules. They are the quiet architecture of a life built on genuine, lasting financial stability. The 5% are not extraordinary. They are simply awake to what compounds. And now, so are you. And there you have it. If you found value today, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. I appreciate your support more than you know. Until next time. Stay consistent, stay patient, and stay winning. See you in the next one, Money Magician.